Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good day.
Good to be here.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good stars.
They are, yes, goodness.
Look at us. Benji threw in the towel there.
Just threw the towel. I thought, do you know what? I'm not even going to hesitate here. I've lost.
That's the Loch Ness game. It's not a game and it's not about Loch Ness.
But this is the Benji and Nick Show, your favourite TV podcast talking about vintage TV from the past, TV you might remember, TV you might want to forget. We look at it, riff it, jam it, and give you our verdict.
I'm not Benji.
And I'm not Nick. Now, Nick, what are we covering today?
We're covering the very first episode of the Sherlock Holmes series made by Granada Television, starring Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes.
Certainly are.
And it's called Scandal in Bohemia. There you have it. That's what we're doing. And we'll be talking about that later with Shelley Dean, our reviewer from across the seas. And we'll be expressing our views on it. When was it broadcast?
Oh,
she'll probably have all the facts, won't she? But
yeah.
we shouldn't anticipate it, really.
Let's have a look. I'll double check it now. I thought it was in the 80s, obviously. It was in 1984. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, 1984. Fantastic, may I just say, straight off the bat here.
Well, we needn't do the rest of the podcast.
The font, the logo of Sherlock Holmes just looks very good, doesn't it? For 1984.
Or
that's it. That's my view. There you have it.
Yes, we will also be reading out your emails very shortly. Just wanted to say thank you to you all who have subscribed to us on Patreon. You can get all sorts of interesting things. I'm just adjusting my light here for those of you who subscribe to Patreon and are getting a video of this. You can get, TV dinners and extra commentaries and all that malarkey. But of course, you can just carry on to listen to the Benji and Nick Show just the way you're doing it now.
It's free and always will be. That's the key, isn't it, really? But, if you want...
we really thank those of you who are supporting us, helping us to create extra exciting content.
Helps the podcast struggle along, which is always nice, isn't it? So I love struggle along is just one of my favourite things. A bloke on the on the street the other day. Yes. Somebody parked across his parking space and he shouted at her and he said, "I don't see why you have to drive up and down here. Some of us have to struggle up and down the bloody road every day." I just love the idea. Struggle up and down the road.
Well,
I love it.
Can be a struggle. Here's the first email.
Yes, do send them into podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. We might read them out.
Yes. This one is from Kenneth Mann, one of our regular listeners. Hello, Kenneth. It says, "From the inner mind to Loch Ness." He says, "Apologies, I had not meant to be obscure."
But
the melancholy Doctor Who, this was in a previous email he wrote, the melancholy Doctor Who connection of La Cloche Tibetaine is the death of Roger Delgado while being driven to location on that production. Do you remember?
Was it that production?
It was, yes.
My God.
I am always interested in genealogy. I'm sorry, there's a helicopter going overhead. I don't know whether you can hear it. I'm always interested in genealogy of fictional tropes, and Star Trek's Mirror Mirror episode is unusual in that regard, in that it might actually be an original idea. What? Parallel worlds and alternate histories are not new, but the combination of that idea with evil twins, who are usually a one-off in stories, normally only one character gets an evil twin, may be the invention of Jerome Bixby, who wrote Mirror Mirror, unless any of your listeners know better. Curiously, the later iterations of it in Discovery are much more focused on the evil twin idea and people being replaced by their mirror images, as if reverting to the roots of the idea in Gothic horror. The DS9 version, which I never saw, I didn't see a Mirror Universe episode of DS9, did you? Anyway, that added the cliche, the female complement to the beard of evil, which is clearly the cleavage of evil.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So all the evil women had cleavage showing, whereby any overt sexuality of female characters is a sign that they are villains. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, they all had their belly buttons showing. Even in the Star Trek Enterprise version, they did as well.
Uhura famously did, didn't she?
Yes.
In the original, in TOS.
Of course, when I... the original series. When I read out Discovery, I was thinking Enterprise, but which I'd rather think of Enterprise than Discovery at the moment, to be quite frank. A curiously 19th century idea to find still hanging around in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, had the idea that overt sexuality equals evil. That is a very old-fashioned sort of mistrust of human animalistic passion, isn't it? And I'm doing a sociology lecture here. One small extra item from Mirror Mirror. The long-suffering leader of the planet they are orbiting is played by Vic Perrin, an on-screen appearance by the Outer Limits control voice.
Ooh.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. That was him.
Is that the same bloke?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, Vic Perrin.
Oh, Vic
Perrin.
Relative of old Reggie, isn't it?
That's right. Vic, could you nip down the chip shop? Thanks. Sounds like the sort of person you'd send out to get some chips, doesn't it?
Yeah, you trust him to bring them back as well. That's the good thing, you know.
He might have a few on the way.
Oh, you'd have a few, but you'd factor that in, wouldn't you? You know.
I love the connection of chip shops and the phrase "factor that in." They don't sit easily together, do they? When discussing the chip shop, I would like to factor in the following concerns.
Factor
Vic
in
Perrin
the
may
portions
eat
of...
3 of your chips on the way.
Which is all right, really. Maybe you could just ask them to add 3 extra chips, and therefore, you know, there's no loss, is there, really?
No. Well, and Ken ends this in a very traditional fashion. He says, "Regards, Ken Mann, late of Room 17." You still haven't watched Room 17, have you?
I've not. I will.
I watched 97% of an episode of it, and I must get back and find it on YouTube. It was really interesting.
What stopped you watching the other percentage?
I think the telephone rang.
Ah, yes. Common occurrence, could have happened to any of us.
I don't know what happened. I didn't stop listening because I wasn't interested. I stopped.
Doesn't even know what he was doing. Reading, listening. He was
eating chips with Vic Perrin.
Factored that one in, didn't you? Well, we got
Did
another one here.
Could you factor in the next email?
I certainly am. I'm going to factor this one in. It's from Neil Allen, sent on the 17th of the 3rd, 2021, the year of our Lord 16. 16, yeah, wow. The subject of this one is, it's vintage, but is it science fiction?
Oh,
we could have a controversial klaxon here. There we go. Hi guys, I was wondering if you might consider reviewing a couple of films I've loved since seeing them when I was much younger. Both films have strong female leads and have an element of science fiction in one and just fiction in the other. Film 1. The 1975 Stepford Wives, starring Catherine Ross. It's a great story which starts at being in a small town in America, but as the story progresses becomes more and more creepy. And just as Catherine Ross can't believe what's happening to her friends in Stepford, you start to think that maybe this isn't as cosy a film as you thought.
Have you ever seen it?
No, I've never. I've always wanted to, but I've never had the chance to see it.
I have seen it once, but I was far too young, so I remember finding it really, really boring. But anyway,
that's often quite a good sign in a weird sort of way, because when things like that happen, you end up normally you come back and go, yeah, fair play, it was actually really good. I can see why. Yeah. As I say, also this film was released
into an Exelon.
February 1975 it was released, and Doctor Who's, I'm just turning into some comedy character now, Doctor Who's Android Invasion was released in December 1975.
Yes.
Coincidence? I'm not sure. Well, who knows, quite frankly.
Why is that a coincidence, the Android Invasion?
Because I suppose they could be a bit similar, maybe. Who knows?
I suppose so. The Stepford Wives turn out to be sort of roboty things, don't they?
Robosis. Film 2 here is the 1963 The Birds.
By
Alfred Hitchcock, of course, sponsored by Bird's Custard. And again, a strong female lead in Tippi Hedren. This film,
Tippi Hedren. Yes.
That one too. This film, again, starts off in a cosy way, and the style of the film is what I love about it.
Yes.
It's setting in Bodega Bay, a small American community I imagine Shelley lives in. And it's all very cosy again until the birds start arriving and things turn nasty. Yes, I was thinking of that film a couple of days ago because outside the birds just all of a sudden went mental and were, just making loads and loads of noise. And I thought, it's a bit like the birds. Like, what's
they had
triggered?
sort of like trumpets and cymbals and things.
Yeah, well, they just went mental. Shoplifting, you name it, swooping
Stealing
at old
fishing
ladies.
ships off Vic Perrin.
Yeah, factor that one in. But it's a great film. I was never that fond of the beginning of the film. When it's that bit when she goes off on the boat and stuff, but I love it when it all gets going. But I tell you what I do love. I absolutely love the way it opens with Alfred Hitchcock there in his, in his study or whatever, introducing the film. I think that is just beautiful.
Is that how that begins?
I believe so, yes. He's talking about the birds, isn't he?
Is he? I don't remember that. I just remember the whole thing in the bird shop.
No, it opens up. I'm sure I'm not imagining. It opens up. It opens up with Alfred Hitchcock talking about birds.
Does it? I thought he just does his, usual cameo. Gets out in a taxi or something.
Or maybe it's the trailer that I'm thinking of when he's talking about it. But it's Mr. Hitchcock would like to say a few words to you, and he talks about the birds, and he's in his study.
Yeah, that's not at the film.
That's the yeah. Okay, well. Whenever I watched it, I must have watched this first and then watched into it. But anyway,
seems logical. I mean, controversially, Benji, I do like the beginning actually. And again, when I was younger, I didn't like the beginning because it wasn't about the birds really. But I loved all that building of tension. Of course, the novel, the novel by Daphne du Maurier, I believe. Is that right?
I'll let you know. The original yes, you're correct.
Yeah. Right. Is set in England.
That would figure. That would make
Hitchcock,
sense.
Yeah. So it has and I know BBC Radio 4 did a more faithful adaptation of it, which is it's a completely different beast, really. But the thing about the birds is the same, but the background and the characters are all totally different.
It's a superb psychological film, isn't it, as well, in that regard.
And there's no explanation. No one ever can't, it's weird. I think the thing that really lets the film down and couldn't be helped is the level of movie effects technology.
Yes, quite.
It's sort of like 1970s Doctor Who CSO, the Matt work, isn't it, I'm afraid. But it's even in spite of that, it's still... really quite disturbing, isn't it?
I remember watching it when I was a kid. This is so how old I am, is getting the VHS from the library as a kid and watching
it.
It
long ago.
And I remember being particularly haunted by towards the end of the film, where they kind of go to that house and like the car had like the birds on top of it, and the house is just full of birds everywhere, and then the birds sitting on the telephone, they were just everywhere. I remember that really, I found that chilling, and the fact that it does end and you don't really know what the future holds for them, why it's happened, is really chilling. Have you ever seen Mel Brooks's send-up of Hitchcock called High Anxiety? No. It's full of Hitchcock pastiche. So it has the high anxiety is like the vertigo in Vertigo, of course, movie, yeah. Except Mel Brooks is just going with big circles behind him, and he has a bit with the birds as well. Where he suddenly notices there are lots of birds sitting around on things, and they start to fly after him. And of course, they don't attack him; they poop on him. Which he's constantly being pooed on by birds. Which, of course, is left out of this film, because that would definitely that's something you would have to factor in if the birds invaded. I mean, have you ever parked your car at a seaside town? I live in a seaside town, mate. Exactly. Last weekend I went out and scraped it all off. It's horrendous. But I love Hitchcock films. I love. He's a master, isn't he? He is a master. That's not an original observation, I have to say, but it's like Psycho. is a fantastic.
He's not a psycho.
He's not. It's open to interpretation. But Psycho is the interesting thing about that film is, of course, it's remembered fondly for its famous shower scene. But that's only like one scene in the film, and it doesn't really represent what the film is about.
No,
it does.
it doesn't.
But it's not. It's not about that,
No.
and it's interesting watching the whole of the film, and you see it for what it is. It's just a great piece.
You can see that scene dissected and how they don't actually show anything at all, and yet
It's very
it makes
clever.
you think that you've seen someone stabbed to death and bleeding and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the reason the shower scene's so famous is because nothing like that had ever been done before.
And
it was
also,
the
I think,
first time.
It broke the boundaries, and it was, for that time, it was graphic.
Yeah,
Things
and
like that.
and to introduce,
the blood going down the
Yeah.
plug hole, horrific for the time.
and to introduce, a major character, and within 20 minutes, I think is she in the movie for about 20 minutes? It's something
About that,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
20
not
minutes,
long.
half an hour, and then she gets killed. That had never been done before, or at least not in a major mainstream movie. I'm sure many of our listeners would be able to say, well, there was this 1935 French film.
Well, our listeners know best, but it's just the fact that a film like that had been made. Like, he's like disposing of her body and stuff. Pushing the car into. That's pretty dark.
And I hadn't seen the film until fairly recently. It's weird. I'd sort of resisted. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Never got round to it, but yeah, excellent.
Superb.
Well
film.
done.
Well done. You've achieved it. Finishing the email here, it says,
sorry.
These films are great to put on a wet Sunday afternoon and just enjoy the cosy vintage feeling these films have. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Same with The Longest Day. I find that's a great
yes.
Sunday film.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum.
Oh yes, bum 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 bum. I got the wrong notes.
You got the wrong way round.
Bum bum bum
Bum,
bum
bum, bum,
bum 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 bum.
Jean has
Dun,
a
dun,
long
dun, 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 dun,
moustache. John has a long moustache. John has a long moustache. Sorry, I'm just reenacting the entire film now. There's Gert Frobe on a horse coming in. I'm Goldfinger. I hope you might consider covering them sometime in the future. Many thanks, Neil. Well, we pretty much have covered. We've certainly covered the birds, haven't we?
Yeah,
P.S.
not for the birds. I mean,
Tell
we had
Shelley-
to factor that in, didn't we?
We had to factor in the birds. Tell Shelley in Bodega Bay to carry on putting out that bird food. Yeah. Don't wind the birds up. You might get pooed on.
They might be clockwork. And of course,
Just
the
loads
Benji
of
and
that
Nick show.
bird from Bagpuss. Just loads of that.
Yes.
Clockwork bird. Sorry, carry on.
Very good. Oh yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Could do a birds episode of Bagpuss where it turns nasty.
He's out of control. He's pecking those mice.
We will die. We will die.
They're the scary ones.
Yeah, they are. I was going to say that the Benji and Nick show wouldn't be complete without an email from Thomas Hodden. Important questions, this one's called. By the way, I mean, we haven't done this, but previously we've forgotten ourselves. It was sent on the 15th of March in the year 0802. Oh dear.
Blimey, they're really early emails at this time of the podcast juncture, isn't it?
Thomas starts by saying, evening all.
Evening.
Evening all. Oh. This is the trouble reading it off a different computer. I'm making a complete hash of this. In these strange times, I have often found myself troubled by some of life's great mysteries, and I was hoping I could turn to your sage wisdom for the definitive answers. If I grow my beard, does that mean my evil twin in the mirror universe has to grow one?
Ooh.
Probably shave it off, I'd say.
Well, surely in the mirror universe, they wouldn't have a beard. If you grow a beard, they'd be like, oh, God, get rid of it now. More importantly, if you don't have a beard, does that make you the evil? Does that make you... If you do have a beard, does that make you the evil twin? So
yeah, that's me. And you. Did the Liberator just look like it was flying backwards, or did Blake 7 never learn to take it out of reverse gear?
Well, they had to learn the hard way, didn't they?
Do you think it did look like it was going backwards? I thought.
I think that was I think it was intentional, wasn't it? Because it looked too much like Star Trek, and so they just flipped it around the other way.
Right.
I think that was actually the reason. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was, this looks too similar to that. Just do that. There we go.
Do you know who Jessica Fletcher is?
Jessica Fletcher.
Because he asks, was Jessica Fletcher a serial killer?
Murder, She Wrote. Oh, yes.
Was she a serial killer, constantly framing others for her murders? I like that Angela Lansbury is just framing people.
Wouldn't put her past it.
Why did every episode Why did every episode of Triangle, he's got it in for Triangle, seem to last for approximately 6 days? Was it really bad writing? Was it to suggest that the Felixstowe-Gothenburg-Amsterdam Triangle has the same supernatural properties as the Bermuda Triangle? Or if it is a clever way of depicting the substances consumed in Amsterdam without showing them? Fair enough. I don't know the answer to that, because I've never been in that triangle. Given how much cooler Nightmare is than the adventure game, which other game shows would be vastly improved by blindfolding one of the players. Well, I don't know. Have you got any suggestions?
Catchphrase. What is that? What's that catchphrase on the screen? I don't know.
Feel
No.
it.
Feel it. Touch it.
Was Brum the love child of Bessie and Gabriel?
No, Brum should have been shoved in a skip for all I care. I couldn't stand
Who's
that growing
Gabriel?
up. I don't know, and quite frankly, if it's a talking car, I don't care.
Is it just me, or was Whizbit terrifying?
Slightly terrifying.
What was Whizbit?
Look Whizbit up. Hold on.
Thank you in advance of your answers. Yours, T.E. Hodden. I will now look up Whizbit. I know the name.
I just want to see if you think it's terrifying or not.
Okay, I've heard of it. It's a kids.
I don't know what it's from. I just know what it is.
Kids TV show, isn't it, or something? Or what? Whizbit. Typing it in. Oh crikey! Yeah, it is terrifying.
It looks like a sort of
triangle cone people.
It's like a sort of sentient samosa.
The sentient samosas.
But what's scarier, Whizbit or the weird, horrific rabbit next to it?
Yeah, I've gone off the page. I don't want it. I don't want it. Right, I can't
That's
bear
a new
it.
sort of saying. God, Nick's really gone off the page.
Oh, by the way, I'm looking here at the cover for this issue. It's very nice.
The cupboard for this issue.
Yeah, a bit of
Very. Oh yes, it is. I loved that when
just
that came
showing it
in.
to him on the video there.
The video.
Nice work by Colin Smith there, as always.
Mr. C.
I'll just get that ready to put on the cover of this podcast. There we are. Super. Well, there we have it. Thank you so much for your emails, folks. Please do send them in to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com, as my dear friend Benji Clifford mentioned earlier. So, it is probably time to invite along Shelley Dean. Hello, Shelley.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. It's awesome.
That's what we like to
How's
hear.
that?
That's what we like to hear.
Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome. Wasn't that Lego movie?
So it is the Lego
That's
movie.
why I said it.
Yeah.
That was the movie where I was very relieved. It was because we went to see it because Ben wanted to see it, and it started with a sort of big scene with a wizard and stuff. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. And then I realised it was ironic, and then I thought, okay, this is going to be survivable. Anyway, Shelley, what's the first order of business for you?
The first order of business is, since we're talking about Sherlock Holmes this week, I decided I'm going to start channeling my inner detective, because I'm so inspired by Sherlock. And as you know, I've been doing all this research on our patrons. And this week, I've got some stuff to add to the files that I've been
oh my goodness, the
putting
patron
together
files.
on everybody, yes. First off, we've got Charles Coffin. I found out that he was once hypnotized to believe that he was a Tina Turner backup dancer.
Wow.
So now every
We've all
time
done
he
it.
hears Tiny Dancer, he just starts to dance uncontrollably.
Wow.
So that's, and I don't know how often they're playing Tiny Dancer these days, but
That's a good point.
yeah. So Fatna is a part-time yoga instructor
Yeah.
who teaches mindfulness and balance through the art of mosh pit dancing.
What's that?
Again, we've all done it. Moshing,
Yes,
jumping around.
mosh pit. It's because it turns out that death metal is actually really relaxing.
I don't think it's
Mosh
relaxing.
pit
It's very
dancing
painful.
is when it's people stand at the front of a concert and just literally throw themselves at each other.
And it's
violent.
It's a very weird sensation
crashing.
as well because
Yeah.
it's sort of like fighting, but then if you fall over, they help you up and pat you on the back.
Yes.
So there you go. Then you sort of jump around again and then inevitably sort of bash into them again. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Mosh pit dance.
Yeah.
Mosh pit. MOSH. Mosh pit. Yes.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
I don't think it's your scene, Nick. I think I can't imagine
my
you
scene.
moshing
I
around.
can't imagine.
I remember I did
can
a bit of pogoing in my time.
Bit of punk. It's sort of like
This was a
imagine
punk thing.
Imagine like pogoing, but sort of. Imagine like
Against
pogoing when
other
it's sort of
people.
hijacked by people that sort of want to bash into things more.
But pogoing, people did, inevitably jump on your feet or smack into you.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That's,
Yeah, but the whole purpose of being in a mosh pit is to literally bash into each other.
So you come out quite injured, basically.
Yes.
yeah, sort of
Yes.
battered.
So it's
really.
an activity for psychopaths.
Yeah, it's
I
an odd
guess
one.
so.
I've done it a
Okay,
few
but just
times.
established.
Did,
Well,
been
I
to a
rest my
few-
case.
Been to a few metal gigs in my time, but yeah, I don't quite know. You get a bit older, then you suddenly think like, why are you doing that?
Exactly.
Well, it hurts enough just your own body aging and sitting up and
Speak for
standing
yourself.
and
Speak for
stuff.
yourself.
I'm just talking about it. You said
She
as
is
you get
speaking for
older,
herself.
as you get older, yes, I can attest to, lots of sounds come out of your mouth when you
creak,
sit
the
down.
creaks.
Totally,
Yes.
totally.
Like, oh, what was that? That big loud popping sound. Oh, my hip. Don't worry about it.
Well, I told you, didn't I? I've told you both this a million times that when I did that little audio documentary for Big Finish, where I recorded myself for a week, because I had a very busy week doing lots of different recordings and stuff, and I had to edit out all these involuntary noises of pain I was making all the time. Just like getting out of cars. I thought, what's that horrible noise? God, that was me. That was me, and I don't know I'm doing them, so goodness knows.
I did some exercising yesterday that's out of my norm.
Yes.
And so it
In a mosh
hit
pit,
muscles. Yes. It hit muscles that I apparently haven't worked in a while. So today I am having those where standing up and sitting down is incredibly painful. So I keep telling my daughter, don't worry, I'm okay, when she hears, oh!
It's a weird one though, because although like when the muscle kind of aches like that, although it's sort of painful, it's sort of nice at the same time. It's like a
It is
bizarre
because you
sort of.
felt, you feel like I did something good for myself.
I succeeded in this pain.
I've never got to that stage with exercise. No, it's never happened.
You've never gotten sore from
No, I've got
doing-
sore, but I've never thought, but this is doing me good, and I go past the
gotcha.
barrier. No, it's always been impossible and difficult for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
Well,
my
and then-
tragedy. Whereas drinking beer and eating too much food, somehow that just feels great.
Yeah, it's much better, isn't it? Really, and better for you as well. Better for your body to just have lots of curry and beer.
Well, there is one more
Yes.
thing that I found out. Carl Bate. He was the one who was responsible for picking out all of the green M&Ms for Jimi Hendrix when he was backstage on one of his world tours.
Figures, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he was,
I didn't realize that.
Well, I knew
We should
Jimmy
fact
for
check
many
that.
years, and Jimmy
M&Ms
was
were
a
so
big M&Ms
offending.
man.
Yeah.
Good old
So
Hendrix.
that's just a little bit of stuff I found out about some of our fabulous patrons who we're so thankful for, and thank you so much. And if you want to go and over on to Patreon and support us, sign up for a tier.
That's right.
It's lots of fun.
Mr. Rhodes says so.
And that was my commercial.
Sorry, that was me doing a little...
And Nick's got a hand puppet.
Yeah.
Of, I don't
a
even know what
microphone
it is.
case.
My
He's-
Anyway,
Yes.
what can you tell us about, or what can you tell the listeners about
I can tell-
Sherlock Holmes, Scandal,
Scandal
in
in
Bohemia?
Bohemia.
Yes.
Well, it is the first episode of the Granada.
Granada.
Gotcha. Potato. Of the whatever I just said, TV Sherlock Holmes adaptations, which were produced between 1984 and 1994,
Wow.
and star Jeremy Brett as the famous detective. And this one was based on the short story of the same name by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The episode was directed by Paul Annette and written by John Hawksworth. That's an awesome last name.
Good name, isn't
it's
it?
great, isn't it? So I'm having trouble.
Hawksworth.
My jacket has fallen down between the back of my chair and the seat. I'm just moving it.
Alrighty. Well, the synopsis of this episode is Sherlock Holmes finds himself evenly matched when he is employed by the King of Bohemia to retrieve an indiscreet photograph from an intriguing woman.
The woman.
The woman.
The woman.
So, yeah. What'd you guys think?
I love it.
Well-
I just think it's superb.
We know you loved it, Benji, because you said we're going to watch it.
Tell us why you love it. What's
Yes.
good about it? And does Vic Perrin feature?
Well, he certainly factors in to it.
It's a little joke we've been having before you arrived.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's
See,
not-
I love the little jokes that you guys refer back to of that things I have no idea about.
Yeah,
So
it-
more so, I just smile and nod. Yeah.
Smile. No,
Cool.
what I think.
See what you think when you listen afterwards.
Yeah.
What I think is so fantastic, it's just such a classy production. It's television and it's done so well. Everything about it, from the way it's been made, the setting, the sets, the detail, to the fine caliber of acting, it's just absolutely class. And what it does, and I think what it does really well, because when you get a lot of Holmes things on the telly, they're often sort of ITV dramas that go on for an hour and a half, drag on. Sometimes they split it off into two things, but they condense this into under an hour, keep you hooked, tell the story really well, and you feel like you feel invested, you feel satisfied at the end, and you don't feel like it's dragged on for too long. And I like that. I just think it's for ITV to make it. And they actually built a huge set in the Granada I think it might have been the back lot there. So when you went on the Granada tours back in the day, you would go through. You go in the inside. They had a full scale version, I think it was, of the House of Parliament in there, and then you would go through onto the street, Baker Street, which they built there, and it was just that's the level of commitment that they actually put into this series. And then you go on to inevitably the Coronation Street set, so it was part of, they did it for years and years, and I think that alone just sums up a reason why that shows how invested they were in this to do it. And I just think it's class, just absolute class.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we say 1984, it's very rare that television in Britain was made to this kind of high standard. Really, I mean, it doesn't, to us now, it doesn't look remarkable or anything, because it actually
did look remarkable, because I watched it and I went, this is 1984?
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
And particularly for British television in 1984, because you look at a series that was a little bit later. When was Hannay made?
Hannay,
which was
I reckon that was late 80s. Hannay.
That, Shelley, was a series
88, yes.
Based on a character who was the lead character in the 39 Steps, the John Buchan novel that was made into several, at least two famous movie versions. No, three I can think of, actually. And the actor who played Hannay in the 1978 version, Robert Powell. You heard of Robert Powell?
I have.
Yep.
That is a name I have heard.
Yeah, because he got famous for playing Jesus Christ in the Jesus of Nazareth, didn't he? So he became internationally famous. He played the character, and that is more what you'd expect. It's all shot on video. They've got a specially composed score. It feels very much like Doctor Who without any science fiction in it, But it feels like a TV production, whereas these Holmes things by Granada, it's like they had a vision of the eternal and reliable popularity of Sherlock Holmes, and they thought, we're going to spend a lot of money on this because people will always watch this because it's Sherlock Holmes and he is like the number one favourite fictional character in the entire world, and we're gonna do the whole of the Arthur Conan Doyle canon, and we're going to do every single story, and we're going to it was an incredible commitment. Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
What do you think?
It took me a minute to warm up, because I got, I'm spoiled with having seen this character played by other people. And you get used to, I made the joke last week about Benedict Cumberbatch. When nowadays you think Sherlock Holmes, that's what you think. And
I don't.
Well, I was not exposed to this prior to this. And so as I got into it, I realized I could see that Benedict Cumberbatch was in fact inspired in part by Jeremy Brett's portrayal of the character. And he did adapt some of the same mannerisms and things like that. And I did have some confusion with and I guess this was probably because, I'm going to say in my defense, because I didn't recognize the actor. So I wasn't familiar with his face. So when he was playing the gardener,
yeah,
I didn't know it was him.
Oh, that's beautiful, though. That's what's meant to happen.
That's what's meant to happen.
And
yeah.
He's taking the stuff off. I went, well, I'm a dummy.
No, he's meant to be really good at disguising himself. So that's good.
Right. So
when I watched that, I thought Shelley's going to see straight through this, and she'll go, "That was a bit cod." So it's really interesting that you didn't.
Completely, it might make me look like a fool. I don't know.
No,
but it was,
well, that's the whole point. He is the great detective for a reason, of course.
Right. So they were doing close-ups on that character, and the bushy eyebrows, and I was like, I was even thinking to myself, boy, he could use some grooming, and, and then to come to find out that it was him. But it was, and then when he became the older guy later on in the episode, it was just, I was very impressed, and I enjoyed his portrayal, though I was saddened to find out more about him as a person.
Yes.
And what happened to him in his life, and I did a lot of digging into finding out about his mental illness, and then I found on YouTube there was somebody posted an audio of him speaking about his mental illness and advocating for other people who wanted help and where they could get help.
Brilliant.
Just for the
So I
audience,
was
Shelley,
very
do you want to
impressed by that.
elaborate a little bit on what he went through?
I'm sorry. I assume everybody knows because I didn't. That he was diagnosed as bipolar and had manic depression. And that took a lot out of him. And as the series went on, it started to really show what his struggles were, and the medication he was taking caused him to gain a lot of weight.
That's
and
right,
so and so there was just a lot of
They had
sadness.
to change his costume to try and cover up the weight gain, and they reduced his role in some of the stories in order.
I read that there were even a couple episodes that he wasn't even in, and I thought, well, how did they manage that?
Yeah, although Hound of the Baskervilles, or Baskervilles, I should say, is famous for not having Holmes in it all that much, and it is the most famous title anyway, isn't it? And Holmes Spencer.
That's interesting because I didn't know that he wasn't it. That he didn't.
He's pivotal, and he's in it at the beginning, and he's in it right at the end. But it's essentially a story of Watson. Stuck out there on
it's
the
the love and
Hall.
monsters of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I wouldn't go quite that far.
No.
But yeah,
But
the stories as written are Watson's stories. It's him writing. It's from Watson's point of view.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? Watson is the main character, if as you will almost, from a technical standpoint. But then you've got Holmes is the main character, really. But you know what I mean.
But it's true because it is from Watson's perspective, and it's all on him that he's really the main character. If you're going to be technical about it.
And what was the guy who played Watson?
His
Bert.
name is Watson is David Burke.
Burke. I've got the name wrong. I'm terrible. And he famously, I think it was after the first series, he resigned, didn't he?
I saw that the role was taken over by somebody else.
Edward Hardwicke. He was
Hardwicke.
He was the one who became most identified with the role. But I think that Raymond Burke is really good.
David.
David.
Says how good you think he is.
I'm determined never to get his name right. So Alfred Shirt was absolutely amazing in the role of Dr. Whitson.
My favourite character. Oh, he's fantastic. Watson. You know, I think these, as well, you know, it's no surprise, but really the entire, when you're making a Sherlock Holmes, it really does rest on the shoulders of the people playing Holmes and Watson. And if that's done well, then obviously it's a huge success. And if it's not done well, you don't take it too seriously. And it's interesting looking back over the various performances where people, you know, have criticised certain people and praised other people for
Robert Downey Jr.
But you know, there are loads of different elements to this. I mean, I think the pair are just fantastic in this. They've got a great dynamic, and I think in a way, just going back to Jeremy Brett though, really quickly, there is that level of you're sort of awestruck by him. He absolutely captivates you.
I think he's sort of the definitive for me. I mean,
I was reading his obituary, and every single version of his obituary that I found said that he was the quintessential Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I mean, his performance is totally faithful to, you know, as it's written in the books. It's really good, and that sort of. And
he worked very hard to have that happen.
Yes, he took it really, really seriously. Some people suggested too seriously.
He was slightly method in his approach, wasn't he? That he was incredibly sort of almost just wouldn't. You know, he'd be Sherlock Holmes on the set, and he would be completely captivated. He'd bring in books and things and say, "I've been reading this about that," and everybody was sort of thinking.
Well, David Suchet used to do the same thing with Poirot. He would always be Poirot,
which I guess is, you know, again, which is why that is the quintessential Poirot performance. This is, to a lot of people, the quintessential Sherlock Holmes. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is one of those things. It's a bit like Doctor Who, really. Everybody's got their Sherlock Holmes, as it were. You know, be that. I mean, you know, growing up, my Sherlock Holmes was hilariously Peter Cushing.
Of course.
You know, because that was just what I remember watching. But
was he your doctor as well?
Yeah,
in many ways, yes.
Yes. But, you know, Basil Rathbone for a lot of people
is by magnetic. His Basil Rathbone was the one who used to go, Watson. He had that slight American.
Watson. Hey, you schmuck.
He sounded. I mean, I think he was born in England, wasn't he? But he lived in America for a long time, so his accent had slightly crossed the Atlantic.
I still love the fact that they even did that. They did the whole like right, we're in the war, we need a hero. Sherlock Holmes battles the Nazis.
They just ruthlessly. We go.
Ding.
I would just say, when you said that you thought Benedict Cumberbatch was influenced by this performance, whether he was or he wasn't, it's because the part's written the same. You know, Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss are, you know, massive Sherlock Holmes fans.
Yeah, they love it, don't they?
In fact, I just saw the other day online a photograph of me with the two of them at a huge Sherlock Holmes event that Richard Dinnick got me invited to. Actually, you might have heard of Richard, and he and then we were all standing there in our bow ties and, you know, tuxedos and all this, having a chat, and Stephen did a fantastic speech at the event in one of the chambers at the Houses of Parliament, you know, one of the halls there. And, you know, they know their Sherlock Holmes inside out. So it's not surprising that the way they wrote him, even in a modern setting, a modern reinvention, still is very true to the character.
Well, he works. He just works, doesn't he? The character is the key.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and certainly from my point of view, I've played Sherlock Holmes an awful lot now. I've done it on stage a number of times. And, of course, I've been playing the part, the Big Finish, I don't know.
15 years?
15 years, something like that. And, you know, and it is the single-mindedness and the speed at which he thinks is the key to Holmes, really. You know, there's no pause for thought. There's no ruminating. He's kind of... Yeah,
everything's at the tip of his tongue without having to process it. Yeah,
and he has an agenda going on all the time that's sort of Other than, and it's interesting that, you know, in Sherlock, the modern version, and interestingly, no one ever called Sherlock Holmes Sherlock until the modern version came along. Everyone always used to refer to Holmes as Holmes.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen the latest Holmes thing? But now everyone says Sherlock. Even people at Big Finish call our Sherlock Holmes series Sherlock. And I go, no, it's Sherlock Holmes.
Mr. Holmes to you.
I was onto an interesting point there, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss.
No, I'd already made that point. But,
I mean, it's the sharpness of his mind you were mentioning, but also, you know, we were talking about, you know, Jeremy Brett, manic depressive sort of bipolar side of things. In a way, that plays perfectly into Holmes, because Holmes had an element of that in him. You
Totally.
know, he would just lock himself away, and you know, it's really, I suppose, that lack of stimulation, it would drive him mad. Yeah. And so in some respects it almost played not to his advantage, that's the wrong word, but certainly the shades of that realism there in the eyes.
His method was not only just becoming the character, but also integrating his own state of mental being, which was bipolar and manic depressive. So he was able to tap into it. There were a lot of things that I was reading that was saying that, you know, did playing Sherlock Holmes cause him to have this? And it's no, because that's not how mental illness works. But I can see how people
it could
see.
You don't know.
How,
look at the Joker.
Right.
Look at Joker, for example. You know, that was a big factoring point with Heath Ledger, wasn't it? That role was a factoring into the whole of what he was going through. There are
yes,
loads.
but it's a chicken and egg situation there. You don't really know. I was going to say the point I was going to make, which I completely forgot, was that, you know, that Stephen and Mark really interpreted Sherlock's single-mindedness as a kind of autism, you know, where he's very brilliant at certain things but doesn't know about other things, and is not cruel to people, but just doesn't factor in,
doesn't have
their
social
feelings.
adeptness,
doesn't
not
really
able to
sort of recognises what emotion is, but can't process it in the same way as people without autism can, you know. And I was reminded of that when I was just recently playing Sherlock Holmes, and you know, there was something that Holmes said that was quite tactless to Watson, and the director said to me quite rightly, he said, "You're doing that in a kind of I'm sorry for saying this kind of way," and I said, "I don't think he's at all sorry, because he doesn't know that it's a hurtful thing to say. So just say it like it's an interesting observation." Yeah. And then you're left with Watson going, yes, well, okay, you know.
Because he's in a bit like what we see in kind of modern Doctor Who in a way, isn't it? It's that same level of things. It's that same kind of unaware of what's right or what's wrong, but just doesn't really doesn't factor it in. Doesn't factor these things in.
That makes me think of Clara writing the 12th Doctor those note cards.
Yeah,
of how he should respond.
I wish we'd seen.
Certain...
I wish we'd seen more of that. Yeah,
when that aired, we froze the screen, you know, paused the screen so we could read, because they were flashing by them, and they were just hilarious. Just like, I'm sorry that your friend / family member / pet has died. And
I love that.
But that's yes, that definitely fits into the same sort of, not like the more, I guess the word would be unawareness.
Yes.
Of social courtesy.
And yet, if it's to do with the case, he knows all about it.
Yeah.
You know, if that were relevant to the case, then he would know about it.
But human emotions, blah.
Yeah. So we should go back specifically to a scandal in Bohemia. Gail Honeycutt. She was
yes.
She was very good. She was so striking, wasn't she? She was a very famous actor, wasn't she? What was her history?
That I didn't get into. Oh, that's not going to connect.
Here we go. I'm on
Gail
it.
Honeycutt.
I'm on it.
Well, all I love, while Benji's looking that up, her character was from New Jersey, which is where I live currently. So, New Jersey. My pride of where I live, I guess.
Yeah, well done.
I'm a New Yorker, but I live here now.
Not in Bodega Bay.
She's been in a few things. She did. I mean, we'll look at Telly
She's
first.
a very famous name.
She certainly is.
For my generation.
She was in the Beverly Hillbillies, you know, Return of the Saint. The Brazilian Connection, Dallas.
She was in Dallas.
Tales of the Unexpected. Interesting, isn't it, that she ended up kind of, moving and doing a bit of English telly. Thriller she was in, and also, of course, loads of films that she's been in.
What films?
Let's have a look for you. Fragment of Fear, Dream Lover, The Return of the Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Sellout, Spiral Staircase.
So was she American then?
Yes.
She was.
Yes, she was born in Fort Worth, Texas. And did she? Let's see what. Here we go. So. She attended University of California on a scholarship to study English literature and theatre. She worked as a fashion model, then became an actress. Married a British actor, David Hemmings.
Oh, David Hemmings, very famous.
Yeah. She had a son, Nolan Hemmings. Then she married Simon Jenkins, the journalist, British author, editor of the Evening Standard from 76 to 78 and the Times of 1990. And was appointed a Knight Bachelor for Services to Journalism. So there we go. So obviously the English connection, therefore, is she married into, and I guess would have moved to England, maybe. I assume so.
Yeah. But I thought she was a startling presence and a really kind of classy bit of casting. She had she was like a proper movie star coming into this. Yeah.
But also she played the character wonderfully, and obviously it's the way the character has been written, but that she's got quite a few layers to her. You can see that she's sort of, especially when Holmes is the old man, she's almost fascinated by him in a way, and
yes. And I wonder at what point she actually, as the character,
yes,
just because she says she realized it was him. I wonder at what point.
He pretends to be a pastor who is beaten up in the streets, isn't he? Yeah.
Yes. And so she brings him into the house to tend to his wounds. And so afterwards we find out that she has discovered that it is Sherlock Holmes in disguise. But we don't know that. And so it's seeing her tend to him, I wonder at what point does she stop thinking it's an old guy she's helping.
She tries to bathe his wound and he doesn't want her to because, of course, it's just makeup.
It's all fake, yeah. So I love that character because having a strong female character who's famous for besting Holmes is just, you can't get better than that. Sherlock Holmes being the great mind and and then you have this woman who is just on par with him. It's just, that's one of the reasons I love that character so much. And she just did it amazingly, I thought.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he is largely dismissive of women in every other story.
But he knows, he holds that. He holds a torch to her, doesn't he? And I have to say, actually, just quickly, because this is just—I don't know why this is made. I loved the King of Bohemia in this. I just thought he was really funny. I love that gag.
He was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, wasn't he?
He's been in. Well, this is what I was going to bring up, sort of, laughingly so. But one thing the first thing I just want to say is I love the gag where he turns up in disguise and he's just got an eye patch on.
Shelley is now wearing the mask. It's not an eye patch; it was a mask.
It's the King of Bohemia.
Yeah.
But did he really think that this?
That's the gag, isn't
black
it? That's the
mask
joke.
is disguising him?
Well, to be
fair... it's not Shelley anymore, by the way.
No, to be fair, though, if I'd never met you before, I wouldn't know what your face... I wouldn't probably recognise you.
Really?
Yeah.
Even if I had a crazy beard exactly like he did.
I'd just think you were the King of Bohemia in disguise.
It would sort of muddy up the recognition process, let's put it that way.
But it was funny because... Sherlock knew who he was before, and then he called him. He's this guy's all, I need this to happen, and blah 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 blah, and finally Sherlock says, "Yes, Your Highness." And there's that moment of he's like, "Fine," and he rips the mask off like it's like this great reveal, and it's just so silly.
We knew that all along. It's funny. I was looking at the actor who played him, a guy called Wolf Kahler.
Yes.
But I thought, he was great fun in this, and then I looked at just his the list of things he's been in, and it's just funny that you can guess exactly what type of characters he's pretty much consistently played over the years.
Nazis.
Hauptsturmführer,
Ding, ding.
Fleischer, first German soldier at supply dump, Schwimmer, Kaiser Wilhelm.
Has nothing to do with the blonde hair. Not at all.
Maybe, Colonel Hermann Dietrich.
Blonde hair and blue eyes.
German officer, von Hess, Müller, Dr. Müller, gold glasses, German ambassador, Captain Kruger, General von Seibel, Oberlieutenant Lindemann, Ludendorff, it just goes on. Nazi officer, his whole life. Even in his telly career, it's just Kaiser Vlad.
Yeah. Well, where was he born? Edinburgh. No, where was he born?
Kiel.
Kiel.
Kiel in German Reich.
Well, there you go.
He was born in the German Reich, 1940, 3rd of April, and he's still alive.
Is he?
At the age of 80, yes. There you go, and he played Hermann Dietrich in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, he goes, "Ah!" and gets all melted, doesn't he? At the end?
Oh, is he the melty guy?
He's one of the. Yeah, they all get melted, don't they? The Nazis, but yeah, he does the.
But
And interestingly enough, he was in Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. The mystery film with Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes.
Good Lord, was he playing Herr Fleischer von Dietrich?
He played Dr. Hoffmannsthal.
Von Goose-Step.
And he was the German commander in.
Of course he was.
In Wonder Woman.
Yes, of course.
So
In the movie?
What,
in
at
the
the age of
movie.
80? Blimey.
Yeah. So that's it. German in 2017. He was
he
in
a
Wonder
retired German commander?
Woman. Surely so. But it just goes. Fair play to him. He just made a career of it, and why not? Quite frankly.
Typecast.
Yeah, well, if it does
We
the
need
job.
a German. I got a guy.
Yeah.
I got a guy.
It was either going to be him or the guy who was in Silver Nemesis. What was his name?
Oh gosh, yes. The Fourth Reich shall rise.
Silver Nemesis is a Sylvester McCoy Doctor Who story. It was made for the 25th anniversary of Doctor Who, wasn't it?
Let's find out what his name is.
Hence Silver.
I was thinking Cybermen for some reason.
Well, yeah, the Cybermen are certainly in it.
Anton Diffring.
Well, then there you go.
Anton Diffring. Have you heard of him?
No.
Where Eagles Dare, The Heroes of Telemark. Telemark, yeah. Fahrenheit 451. Operation Daybreak stars Reinhard Heydrich.
Fahrenheit 451. I don't know if you've ever seen that film. It's,
No.
I've read the book.
Yeah, adaptation of Ray Bradbury's book about books being
Had to read that in
burnt.
high school.
Fahrenheit 451 is the temperature at which book paper burns, apparently. Yeah, I never read it. I've never read it, but I've only seen the movie, which is very
similar.
It's got Julie Christie in it. That's why I watched it.
He played Ronson in the Accuser. He played Ronson. There we go.
Ronson,
the foul spy.
No,
no, different Ronson.
It was Herr Ronson. Anyway, that's a quick whistle-stop tour of all the German parts played by Anton Diffring and who's the other fella?
But there we go. Well,
Wolf Collar.
Wolf Collar.
Well, there we go. I'd just like to
Collar.
say I'll give this 5 out of 5. I just think it's superb, and that's why I was so desperate. Really, I sort of just forgot how good it was. Watched it and thought, gosh, why haven't we covered this on the Benji and Nick show? It seems so obvious to me. So it's 5 for me.
I'm going to say 4. I thought it was very enjoyable. Knew all the characters. So that kept me intrigued enough that. And I love the sets. I love the costuming. I love the cinematography. And Irene Adler.
Yeah.
She's the woman. She's the woman.
Yeah,
Literally, that's what he calls her, the woman.
Indeed, I can't fault the production. I think the only thing is and it's not the fault of this. I give it 4 stars. 4 really meaty, chunky exclamation marks, not stars. Sorry, because the thing about Sherlock Holmes. It was the first ever to tell these kind of stories so effectively. But the trouble is, so many people have told stories like this since.
Yeah.
And so when you watch it, you often feel, or when you read a Holmes story, and I'm sorry if this is blasphemy, especially as someone who loves Holmes and plays the part, you often think, oh, is that it? Is that all that happens? But of course, it was the first to do it, so it was remarkable. Yeah. But in the light of that, so it's unfair to mark it down for that. But, from a point of view of entertainment, 4 good exclamation marks. It didn't entirely blow me away because there is that kind of
because you've lived it.
We know how
was
this
a little.
works.
Yeah, the pacing also was a little like you could tell that they were stretching things out to fit an hour.
Do you think?
Do you think so? I think the opposite. I think it's really
yeah.
concise and really, squeezes it in perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably quite a short story, wasn't it, as well? Who knows? I don't think I've ever read the story.
It is a short story.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I think it was the first one he wrote.
Which is why they did it first, I presume.
Well, there we have it, folks. Sherlock Holmes. Shelley, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are doing My Mother the Car, which was recommended to us by one of our patrons. It's an American show, and I, of course, forgot completely who it was. I think it was Carl. But anyhow, it's an American show, and just by the title,
that's what
it's
it
about.
is.
A mother in a car, and
Well,
I won't tell you the whole thing.
I've seen it.
Away.
I saw it months ago when somebody else recommended it to us. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's probably why we were supposed to do this for this week, and Benji jumped in and was like, "Nope."
Just had to.
Jumped in wearing a deer stalker.
Sometimes you have to when Jeremy Brett's involved, you just have to redirect the traffic, man.
You do.
You know. But we'll look forward to that. Thank you so much for listening. Please write in to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. And thank you so much for those who are supporting us on Patreon. And if you're not, then please check it out and see, it might be something for you. There's lots on there. So from us here at HQ, it's goodbye.
Goodbye from HQNB.
And goodbye from me. You guys are weird.
Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk. It's true, we are.